Hello and welcome to Innovations in Production Dispersing and Milling, a webinar sponsored by and put on by Bick Gardner Instrumentation. My name is John Kowalski. I'm part of the marketing team here, and today we have presenting Mr. Andy Stumer. He is our business line manager for our Dispersing product line. Also, if you have any questions and time permitting, please log them in the Q&A box located in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, and time permitting, we'll get to them. Also, we are recording this webinar, and we'll be sending the link out to you tomorrow morning. If you'd like to review it again, share it with colleagues, or if it helps develop any questions that you may have that we can assist with, or just to review the content again. So with that, Andy?
Yes, hello.
Yours, sir.
Yes, thank you, John. Hello and welcome everybody to the Innovations in Production, Dispersing and Milling seminar. This is our second rendition. We had that first one March 4th, and we had over 100 people, and there was a request made to have it again. So this is the same thing we did about a month ago. Let's see. So here is just a quick slide. Wanted to show you at the last European Coding Show, where we had a booth set up with our production equipment and our lab equipment. That was unfortunately the last time we were able to do it, and we all look forward to better times when we can be at the next American Coding Show with a similar presence. Hope to see everybody there. Just to go through the agenda, we're going to do a brief introduction about the company. Then we're going to discuss the dispersion process overview, just an insight into what's important. And then we're going to discuss the latest technologies in the dispersing and milling arena. And at the end, we're going to conclude with just a quick look at the lab resources that are available in Germany as well as in Wallingford with our sister company, the Big Additives Group. Just briefly, the company VMA, the Dispermat company, was founded in 1972 by this really beautiful couple on the top right, Hermann and Elke Getzmann. Believe it or not, Hermann is still active in the business today. His two sons, Christian and Martin, are running the company, and his wife, Elke, retired a couple of years ago from accounting. But Hermann is still in there few times a week to make sure that they still follow his design philosophy, and he's a great presence. The first Dispermat was introduced in 1973, almost 50 years ago, and believe it or not, we have still some customers running, even in the US, that imported those machines in the late 70s, early 80s, running on the original motors that for the first Dispermat edition that came out in 1973. Even today, they're still working just fine. The only thing they updated were the control boxes, but that just speaks to the quality of the motors. They're just unbelievable. Big has had a really good relationship with VMA since the mid-80s. And all of our manufacturing sites and laboratories use VMA equipment. And we started to distribute the product line exclusively in the US and Canada in 1988. About 3 years ago, we made a decision to introduce production equipment to North America, and it's been very successful because some of the differences that I'll share with you a few slides down as to why this is really good technology to use in manufacturing. The company has over 100 employees. There's about 8 people just designing equipment, and VMA is known to make high-end dissolvers, basket mills, rotor stator equipment, even vacuum systems for the lab, pilot, as well as manufacturing. So right there is the facility. The building back here is the new building that was added 2 years ago. So they have a lot of more production capability. There's a new design center in there, more office space, as well as warehousing space for the raw materials. VMA is known to really make a lot of custom products. Probably 40% of all the equipment that VMA manufactures is custom to meet our different requirements. And then We also have very good laboratory capabilities for lab, pilot, and production for upscale to show our customers how well the equipment performs. We are building actually a pilot facility in Wallingford that gives us an additional capabilities probably later this year or early next year. Going right into the dispersion process, what's really important is to understand that pigments flock together. These van der Waals forces basically are these binding forces that turn the pigments into these agglomerates. And the whole idea of the dispersion process is to really break up these binding forces, turn them to smaller particle clusters called the aggregates. We do that with the dissolver. And then if we want to go down to the primary particle size, we really need to do the media milling with either a horizontal bead mill or a basket mill or some other type of bead mill or three-roll mill that has enough shear power to really break up these aggregates to smaller particles. And then at the end, when we achieve our goal, we obviously need to stabilize these smaller particles. So we have a lot of different additives through our sister company that we could review with you and basically help you stabilize our small particles in the suspension. So this is a great slide. I really like it. It shows you that the steps. We're gonna first do the deagglomeration and the wetting with our cow's blade. And then if we want to go down to further separate these binding forces to the primary particle size, we're gonna need to do the grinding with the media mills. And then at the end, we're gonna do the stabilization with the additives. So it's just a quick slide showing you the difference in particle size from the various pigments that are out there. Probably a lot of you are very familiar with some of those. And this slide is very important because it shows you the different thresholds for the different type of equipment. So anybody that starts to do the dispersing process needs to start out with a dissolver, because this is where we deagglomerate our aggregates and basically turn the particles down to about 10 to 20 microns of particle size. Anything smaller than that, we really need to incorporate the media mills. So for example, the bead mills allow us then to go down to small micron range or even down into the nano range. Some customers want to go sub 100 nanometers, so we really need to have the additional shear forces. We get those with the bead mills. So for that, we have different types of equipment. So we have for these two processes, for the pre-dispersion, we have the dissolvers. For production, we have the Dispermat SC we're going to cover. What's important to remember is the tip speed always needs to be between 18 to 25 meters per second. That's the rule of thumb. That's where we optimize our dispersion process. When we go over to the fine dispersion or milling or grinding, the tip speed of our rotor is slower, and it's about 10 to 16 meters per second of tip speed. That's just the rule of thumb. And for that, we have different types of milling systems. So we have the vertical bead mills, we have basket mills, or the horizontal bead mills, and we cover all of those with the different technologies that are available. So obviously, there is many different arenas where the Dispermats are being used. Probably some of those apply to your manufacturing arena. Probably most popular one, obviously, are the pigments and additives, where they are used mainly. A lot of new markets, we have cosmetics, for example, or the 3D print media, as well as the lithium-ion battery markets are very popular at the moment, and they're all looking at new equipment since these are markets with a lot of growth potential. For the adhesives arena, we have some very unique solutions for manufacturing, where we can imply a vacuum solution with wall scraping system to really properly move the product and also take out any type of air that allows us to better process the material. So here is a great slide of a customer that has all different dispersing and milling equipment. Beautiful machines. As you can see, these are like the standard dissolvers. And then over here in the front, we have a basket mill design. The unique great thing about the Dispermat line is the modularity. That means you can turn a dissolver very quickly and convert it over to a basket mill with this QCS system we're going to cover, and allowing you to do two processes on one machine. Saves you a lot of space, as well as maintenance costs are reduced because you're just really buying only one piece of equipment for your entire pre-dispersion as well as milling needs. So that's the model right there. The Dispermat SC, we can go up to about 2,000 liters of product volume with a 2,500 liter container, either single wall or double walled. We have this new QCS system, which is basically a quick change system that allows you to rapidly move from a dissolver over to a basket mill and back and forth. So it's a dissolver basket mill combination. You can have the vacuum upgrade if you want, that's available, as well as the cover can easily be removed to have better access for cleaning. And then obviously certain materials require a wall scraper, so that's also an option that we have available, as well as different explosion proof additions that are also available for the SC model. So here's what that QCS system looks like, the quick change system. It basically allows you to make that changeover from one basket to a dissolver disc or back and forth or to different baskets in less than 2 minutes. So you can imagine how quickly you can change colors now. The machine is not tied up for cleaning. And basically what a lot of customers are doing, they buy several baskets, one for each color family, and then basically they just move in between the baskets as they're changing or moving from one color family to another color family. It's really nice. You don't have any downtime really with the equipment, and not a lot of cleanup or cleaning because they dedicate these baskets to their color families, and that really saves customers a lot of time and money. We also have ceramic option for different products, require ceramic lined milling chambers, as well as ceramic milling discs, especially if you're processing really light materials or TiO2 loaded materials. You really don't want the stainless steel discoloring your product. So for that, we have the ceramic option. And then these systems also have the ability to be equipped with a rotor stator, so you can seamlessly switch back and forth between basket milling or rotor stator, or just use it as a standard dissolver. So we also have the vacuum option for the SC model, which allows you to achieve better wetting and dispersing effect. You can imagine like the air entrapped in your mill base, they act like tiny little air bubbles. These are air matrices that basically buffer the shear forces. So by removing that, I have more direct impact of my shear forces to my pigment on my mill base. Therefore, I'm improving my homogenization. I have the ability to put in more energy. And a big deal is also the foaming. I'm able to draw out all the foam. Therefore, my product transfer efficiency goes way up. That means also cost savings. And for some customers, want to have a nitrogen blanket in there, inert gas. So that option is also available for certain materials. This is what the cover looks like. It's just an example of a smaller production vessel with the vacuum capability, as well as the nitrogen purging valve. And then on top, we have a viewing glass. There is a light on the inside, so you always see what's going on and how effectively the vacuum pump is removing the foam or air bubbles. So it's a really nice system that can be customized to your specifications. So these are the control boards that are available. So the left here is the new, we call it C technology package. It's very user-friendly. It gives you all the critical data points on the display. We opted not to use a touch panel. We have the a button right here. It's a turn wheel. Same comes from the auto industry. Audi, I think, uses the same button, and basically it allows you to seamlessly go through the menu. On top here, you see your RPMs. You have also your energy input right here. And then you see your tip speed, torque reading is here, indirect measurement of viscosity. We have our tip speed on the top right, also a temperature readout and a timer function. Each batch can be stored by name, and then basically even to the point where the impeller blade is always at the exact same height in the container when you're running the same process again. So you can just say, today I'm running blue 101, and then you just recall it, and all the process parameters will be exactly the same every single time when you're running blue 101. And then you can also send your data over to a computer and watch the entire dispersion process in real time, and basically be in command of the entire dispersion process from start to finish. And it's a very good solution, allowing them to be very reproducible. On the right side is more a simplified version. It's very common in production environments, just very simple control mechanisms. You can see here the RPMs, here the amperage that's being drawn, and as well as a temperature readout. Okay. The red button here is the emergency stop. So if there's something that goes wrong, you can quickly turn off the machine. We also have some customers that want their own control capabilities. So we have this programmable pad right there that allows you to fully operate it with your own software. We have pilot plant facility in Germany where we can show you this type of equipment and try out different solutions. And we're actually building one in Wallingford as well. So here is this new system is called the Dispermat TM, which is basically an integrated system where a basket mill and a dissolver is all on one machine. So as you can see here, I have a container with my mill base, my pre-grind, I put it under the machine. Then I use my dissolver blade to really properly deagglomerate my mill base. And then when I'm ready to do milling, the basket gets lowered from the top down into my container. And now I'm doing milling all on the same machine. And the cow's blade now acts as kind of a vortex wheel to basically suck the material out of the basket and pump it back around to the top, where then you have a really nice movement of your product inside of the container and as if the product is being milled. And then when I'm finished, I just remove the container. So you can already see the huge advantage there is that I can do everything on one piece of equipment, and I don't have to move my containers around the facility from a dissolver over to a milling piece of milling equipment. So everything can be done on one machine. Saves you a lot of space as well as cost savings, because now you're only buying one piece of equipment instead of two pieces of equipment. So this is what that machine looks like. We can go up 1,600 liters of product volume, and you can see right here the basket mill is on top, and on the bottom we have the dissolver. And so when we are ready to do milling, we just lower the basket with the push of one button, and then now we turn this whole thing into a functional basket mill. We have explosion-proof models available, also with the ceramic lined option I referred to earlier, and also a vacuum option is available also. So I would recommend this system for customers that are running one particular product or one color all the time, and they don't have a lot of color changes, because on the TM, it's more difficult to swap out baskets. So if you have a dedicated color, this is a great solution, because you really only need that one piece of equipment. Here you can see how the basket goes up and down. Very easy also, that's really important, to upscale from lab to pilot to manufacturing. So our small laboratory TML mills can be upscaled at a ratio of 1:1 to our manufacturing TM. So that's also really good. If you have already a Dispermat with the TML, you can rest assured that upscaling will be very easy. Also, the cleaning is very simple on this design. And if you want to just quickly change batches, it's a breeze with this design. So here is a customer in the Midwest that purchased 2 of the TMs, Dispersion House, and they're running them for dedicated products, and they really love the machines. They don't have, in the backside of this facility, they have a lot of competitive machines. They have either basket mills or dissolvers, and they basically said, with your equipment, we don't need to waste all this space. We have everything we need on one machine for pre-grind and our grinding. So it's a huge benefit to them, and they really appreciate the design. So then we also have just a dedicated basket mill, not a dissolver. If somebody says, I have enough dissolvers, all I want to do is just mill. So then we have that basket mill SK. And also, again, here you can swap up the baskets very quickly. We have the quick change system available, and allows you to really go in between baskets very rapidly. I would say that a color change or basket change can be done in under 2 minutes. So if you see this design right here, we have a stand on wheels, and then basically you just roll it up to the machine, and then before you put the basket onto the stand, you just run it for a minute to get rid of all the excess mill base, and then you just transfer it over to the stand and push it away, and then just push in a new basket and hook it up. It's a really easy way of doing it. Okay, that's the QCS system that only VMA Getzmann has for their production scale dispersion equipment. Just another quick slide showing you how the SKML operates. Just put the container right there. We also offer large containers, double-walled or single-walled. And then basically just lower the basket into the mill base and do your milling. And when you're just finished, raise it up again and remove the basket. What's nice about the SK, it's also future-proof in the sense that you could theoretically modify it because it has the QCS system to also add the dissolver. So you can also back convert it to a dissolver if you want to. So you're not stuck with just a basket mill. If your future plans or needs change, it's always backwards compatible, which makes it a really nice future-proof system for your manufacturing needs. The design of our basket mills. So we have a double-walled basket because most of your energy that's being created is actually right in here. We have a vortex wheel on top that is patented, that basically sucks the product into our basket. On the bottom, then we have a milling disc. You can see the beads right there. The beads are held into the basket by the screen on the bottom. And then below the screen, we have another vortex wheel, like house blade, that basically does two things. Number one, it draws the mill base out of the basket and then pumps it back around to the top. So we have a really nice circulation of our mill base through the basket and around the container. It's very efficient. So the basket, the larger one setup looks like this. So we have the bead feeding area right here with a nut. You loosen it and then you basically use a funnel to add the beads. These two rods right here are for cooling. So we have cooling in and cooling out. And then on the back, we have a third rod. That's actually how we measure our temperature. We don't measure the temperature in the basket, in the vessel, or the container. We actually measure it directly inside of the basket because that's where most of your energy is being created. And that's where we get the most reliable reading on temperature if you measure it inside. Also to remember is on the manufacturing scale, basket mills, we are not only cooling the sides of our basket, but also the top portion. All that is double walled. And so we have a really effective way of cooling the mill base with that design. A lot of other companies, they have screens on the side. That's okay, but we believe that it's better to do cooling here where we are milling, and it allows us to properly keep the temperature in check. Okay, now we also have a horizontal solution for manufacturing as well as the lab solution, the SL. Some of you might be familiar with. I will share a slide at the end, and this is our production unit. It's called the Dispermat RS. Can also be configured for different sizes, different milling chamber volumes. We have explosion-proof models. It uses also the C technology, or we have the more simplified M technology package, depending on how much data collection, data tracking, and control capability you want to have. And we also have the ceramic lined milling chamber as well as the ceramic rotor. We can use a PTE rotor. We can use different type of ceramic like silicon carbide, depending on the material or hardness that you require. We also have standard stainless steel or hard steel. So there's many different options as to how you can configure your mill. We can set it up for either circulation mode or pass through. So if you want to go really from a larger particle size to something super, super small, you may want to just hook up a few machines and run them in succession. So you basically go smaller and smaller and smaller. So there's many ways of how we can configure this setup. and we'll be glad to talk to you if you have any questions. We also have a vacuum option here, depending on the type of product that you are milling. So that is also an option that we offer. Then lastly, we also have what's called an APS system. The APS system is more designed for laboratory scale. It's a very quick way of milling. So we have basically two containers. So we have a top container where we do our pre-dispersion, which is swap out the milling disc with the cowl's blade. And then when we reach our desired particle size, we add the beads. The beads are held inside of my container with a screen on the bottom, and there's a drain plug. So then I'm doing my milling. There's a lid actually that goes right on top and that seals everything to make sure that there is no coating that's going to spill out. And then I'm milling with my media, and when I'm ready to purge my material, all I have to do is hook up an air hose to a socket on top and then remove the drain plug. And with air pressure, I'm forcing my mill base out of the container into my container below. So now I'm only dealing with the beads that are left in my container. The screen is holding the beads back there. So for cleaning, all I do is put the drain plug back in place, fill it up with cleaning solution or solvent or whatever you want to use with the right polarity, and then basically run it for a few minutes and then drain it the same way. So that's a really nice way of milling smaller volume. So we unfortunately can't go super large scale with this. So the largest volume is about 30 liters. We made a custom system, but this system here is mainly designed for the laboratory and small pilot trials. But we have some customers who have really expensive pastes like platinum pastes or precious metal pastes that basically are looking at a 30-liter volume as their large-scale production volume. That's why I included this in this presentation. But for most customers, this is really more for the lab because it's not really scalable for like a 1,500 or 2,000-liter container. Okay. Then we have different lab laboratory resources. So we got a applications lab in Germany. We got all different milling equipment as well as the dissolvers over there. So if you are globally based and you want to do a trial in Europe, we'll be glad to help you there. We also have a VL vacuum system available and a really friendly staff helping you through all your dispersing needs. We opened up the lab in Wallingford about 2 years ago. It's very successful with our sister company, the Big Additives Group, and we're also able to do the trials up there and have customers come in. Hopefully, right now it's blocked for visitors, but hopefully once COVID passes soon, we'll be able to host customers. At the moment, what we do is we do live video trials, and we have a setup with cameras so we can show you exactly how the machines perform with your product, and we can do an entire simulation of your process and help you also improve the products. So this is the new equipment that just arrived up there. That's the new laboratory AE model, again with the C control package for a superior upscale capability, as well as the modularity, so you can fit a basket mill, a rotor stator, a basket mill, a bead mill, or a vacuum system onto the same unit. So it's very universal and versatile. And then we also have the latest SL horizontal bead mill with the nano kit that allows us to really go and mill product down to sub 100 nanometers. Also uses the C control package for good data tracking and data collection. So these two pieces of equipment are then in Wallingford and waiting for your product to come in for trial. So it's a really nice facility we have up there. We can show you all the different milling techniques. We have some customers that call in that want to do seminars. We had that request before. We will be able to accommodate that. We can help you with scale up. Then the nice thing is that we have the additive business up there. We have very competent chemists that can review the formulations with you and give you some advice on how to improve a formulation or add some different raw materials. If that's something that you want to explore, we'll be glad to help you there. And it also really is a showroom for us to show our customers all the different technologies that are available that we offer for their lab, pilot, as well as manufacturing needs. And then it can be a training location as well. If you have a larger group, let us know. Once COVID passes, we'll be glad to assist you there as well. Okay. Thank you very much for your participation today, and turn it back to John for any questions.
Great. Thank you, Andy. Good stuff as always. If anyone has any questions, please enter them in the Q&A box located in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. We have some time left, and would love to be able to help in any way we can. Andy, just, I've seen this before, and it just, kind of blows me away with the TM specifically. Not only it's that combination machine as well as, the quick cleaning, the modularity of it, and just the physical space savings. What has been the initial reaction from folks regarding the TM?
Actually, we have a lot of customers that come back to us and say they wanted something that they can upscale really easily from lab to manufacturing. So that it allows them to do that because it runs the same way in the lab as in the production arena, and the ability just to do all the processes on one machine, it just really turns a lot of wheels with people because they're realizing how much money they can save. Imagine right now in a conventional operation, you have a room with dissolvers, and then you have a room with your milling equipment. So what that does is basically reduces everything and cuts it in half, and you just be able to do everything on one piece of equipment. I mean, even if you're not using a TM, because that's more for people that have dedicated products. If you have something like, okay, I have like 5 different color families, I want to just go really quickly in between the different colors, and I don't want a lot of downtime. So then I would say the SC model with the quick change system and just moving baskets around, that's probably a really good way of doing it also. But very positive, and the customers that are using it, they just love it.
No, that sounds great. And I mean, just the vast number of different markets that your product offering can, bring, from cosmetics to inks to the 3D printed materials to, batteries. It's just a broad line with a lot of uses.
Sure.
Are there other, what are typical questions that you get from, inquiries or, people reaching out to you regarding the equipment?
Yeah, sure. A lot of one of the, obviously, it's in everybody's mind is budgeting and money. So is the equipment more expensive than, let's say, a Hockmeyer or a Ross or anything? So it depends on what you're trying to do. I always tell customers, if you are only trying to buy a mixer and you're not dispersing anything, you're just blending, then a disperser is not the right piece of equipment because it's not a mixer. A mixer is a lot cheaper than a disperser. If you really want to do dispersing and not mixing, then if you were to look at and compare the quotes, we are actually much more competitive than the other competitors out there. So, and then you add in the ability to combine the dispersing and the milling in one machine, it's really a no-brainer. So there is a lot of cost savings associated with the design concept, and we'll be glad to show you some numbers if you're interested. But that's one of the main questions: how does it compare in terms of cost? And I would say if you're dispersing and milling, it's quite a bit more cost-effective than anything on the market.
That sounds good. Sounds good. We have a couple questions in here, and I apologize if I'm going to mispronounce your name. From Preeti, they ask, hi, we have a process in the optimization phase right now. Do you help identify the right equipment based on the material properties, etc.?
We can, based on some of our experience that we have. I mean, we would send you what's called a dispersion questionnaire. Basically, it has some questions that we ask in terms of the type of product, viscosities, and some of the parameters that you're currently using to run them, process the material, and then we can make an educated guess as to the performance of the equipment, But I would always recommend the best way to go about it is have a non-disclosure with us, send us some material, and we will do a trial free of charge and show you the equipment, and then we can really review the results after we do the dispersing and milling. We do that. Normally, we charge $1,000 a day for lab trials. So if it's more than a day, then we will charge that fee. Other than that, if you're really serious about coming in to buy technology, then we would waive that.
Okay, great, thank you. And if you have questions specifically around dispersion, I did put Andy's email address in the chat. Feel free to contact him directly for that questionnaire or for any other questions you may have. Another question in here from Han. I use sonication to produce nanoparticle slurries. Can you compare your nano kit with sonication?
I'm not a real expert on sonication, though it's used in some areas. What I know is that it's extremely expensive and also very, very loud if you go really large scale. And it depends on the materials. So some customers use it. I would say that it's due to its exorbitant cost as well as high noise level. Customers really prefer more to go with either horizontal mill or basket mill system. It's in terms of efficiency, it depends on the product. I mean, I wouldn't dare to say. I mean, they both work. Some may be better for some products and some may be better for other products. But I always say, let's do a trial and let's evaluate and compare the two, and then we can have more information, just an educated guess.
Great, great. Another question in here from Dave. How do you remove the media from the basket? I see how you put the media in, but how do you get it out?
So on the bottom of the yeah. So actually, well, right here, okay. So on the bottom there's some screws, and then basically the way you do it, you have a drum. We recommend like that you put a drum there, and then when you lower with maybe 2 wooden blocks, I mean it sounds crude, but that's what a lot of people are doing. And basically then remove the screws and then basically lift up the mill a little bit, and then the beads will kind of fall out, and then the drum can have a catch pan on the bottom. So that's how the media gets removed.
That sounds good. That sounds good. Are there other questions out there? We have some time, and Andy definitely knows the technology, knows the markets, and how to best use the equipment. Anyone from the field that's on the call? Are there specific questions that you guys get that maybe Andy didn't touch on quite yet? Feel free to unmute yourself and chime in here. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, we are recording this and we'll send out the link. Also with a list of future webinars that we do have on dispersion, as well as our color appearance equipment. Quiet crowd today. Do you have some new innovations kind of in the hopper? No pun intended, Andy, that are coming out later this year? I got to remember that one. That was a good one.
Yeah, so just a few things. So obviously with our C technology right here, that really came out last year and this year. There is going to be a new software package called WinDisp. We already have an older version of the WinDisp. The newer one will be a modern way of tracking the data and controlling everything remote from a PC. There'll be an upgrade where we eventually will allow you to send all the live data to a mobile device. So if you're not present in the facility and you want to know what's going on, if there is a problem, I mean, the machines have the ability to program what's called cutout values. Let's say your temperature goes over a certain threshold, or all of a sudden the machine's powering input it requires more energy because your viscosity is changing. You could put a flag there, and then it will just notify you if there is any sort of change in the process that you're not foreseeing. And then you could also either turn it off or allow the machine to run at a different setting. If let's say your temperature goes over a certain point, instead of just turning off the machine, you can program it to say, I want the speed reduced to, let's say, instead of running at 500 RPMs, I'm going to run at 100 RPMs or something like that. So there's a multiple ways of modifying it, and the new software just is a nicer way of displaying all the data and the dispersion process in real time. Okay, but we're always working on new things. So there is, even if you liked what you heard today, but you're like, you know what, but our process is a little bit different. We want to do something else, then we'll be able to help you and maybe customize a solution for you. So like I said earlier, probably about 40% of everything that we make is custom.
Yeah. Good. Yeah. Each industry, each market, each product, may have some specific nuances that we can definitely address.
Like we have customers, for example, that like nitrogen purging through their product to keep it moisture free. So we just on the vacuum system, we add a nitrogen purging valve, right? So, I mean, there's many different things we can do to, modify the machines.
Yeah, and I know there's explosion-proof, components that you can get. When would an explosion-proof piece of equipment be necessary? What types of things do you need to be running that would warrant that?
Well, obviously, it's dictated by your EHS department usually, but mainly customers that run solvent-based products tend to go with an EX model. We have, for lab, I would say, weigh it up really well whether you really need an EX model. I mean, we don't run any EX models in our lab in Wallingford. We do a lot of solvent-based products. The way we circumvent any issues is by either running it under a hood or with a snorkel to draw out the vapors. I mean, for an explosion, you need two things. You need a spark and you need vapors. If you have one but not the other, you cannot have an explosion. So by having just the ability to draw out the vapors and get rid of them, we really don't need EX. EX models are, obviously safer to operate than a conventional model in certain environments, but they're also a little bit more, I wouldn't say difficult, but not as user-friendly to operate as the standard models. And then also a little bit more complex to install, as well as the cost goes up about 25% more if you go with an EX model. But in manufacturing, certainly some facilities require it. And the good news is we have the options to accommodate all these EX requirements.
Definitely. Another question here, can you talk a little bit about the volume of the machines? How loud are they? And, does it meet, local electrical specifications?
You mean I misunderstood in terms of how loud they are, or?
Yeah, how loud? That's kind of part one of the question, and then part two, does it meet electrical specifications?
Yeah, so maybe the second question first. What we do is we send out an electrical form to all of our customers. So usually these machines operate 3-phase 400 volts. But in the US, there's obviously different specifications depending on where you are. Some have 3-phase 240, some have 440 up to 500. So depending on what the power in your building is, we can modify the motor and get a customized motor version for your facility or a transformer that matches the power output that you provide. So there is no issue there. And then the second question, or the first question, second answer is about the noise level. They're very quiet. I haven't actually measured the decibel, but most of you that have seen or heard of Dispermat in a lab probably were very surprised how quiet they are, and you can hardly hear them when they're running. Obviously, production is always a little bit louder, but compared to the other equipment out there, it's probably the quietest machine that you can find by a big. So no, you're not running around with hearing protection when you're running our equipment. And the lab is always super quiet. You can even hardly hear them when they are even turned on. So we had actually customers come out and say, this is a safety concern for us because we don't know if the machine is running or not because they're so quiet. So, but we have redundant safety features on all of our lab equipment as well as production equipment. So just one I want to mention is the it's always interesting for lab stuff is the safety feature, what we call the working area. So we have an ability to set a threshold, an upper and a lower threshold of where you can operate the Dispermat. So let's say you set your threshold right here. So depending on the container, right? So you can move the thresholds. But let's say you were setting it right here and someone were to inadvertently lift up the shaft while the machine is still running, it would automatically power down once it crosses that threshold. So that means that there is no moving blade outside of the container. And obviously, production scale, that's not really a problem because we have a lid, but that also has the safety features as well. And then we have the container clamping system right here that ensures that the container is not only centered, but also properly clamped. And if there is an issue, the machine will tell you on the display and say, not clamped properly, please secure the lock in the container, or the machine will not power on. Also, if your blade is outside of the container and you set the threshold here for the upper limit, we call it H1 and H2. If it's outside that range, it will also tell you that on the display and it will not power on until you lower the blade back into the working area. And then they come on the lab models also with the shaft protection pipe. You can see right here that you can move to ensure that there is no rotating shaft outside of the container as well. Imagine.
Good stuff. Don't seem to have any additional questions. I think we'll conclude there. Like I said, you'll receive a follow-up email tomorrow morning with a link to this recording. If you do have any questions, feel free to respond to that. It'll go to the marketing team and we'll get it in the hands of Andy. Yep, we can hear you, Andy.
I'm having audio difficulties right now.
Okay.
I'm not hearing you, John. I don't know if you guys can still hear me.
Yep, we can. And with that, I don't know what his issue is anyway. But with that, we'll conclude. So feel free to reach out to Andy directly. His email is in the chat. And with that, have a great rest of your day, and feel free to reach out with any questions or any challenges you may be experiencing in your own facilities. Thank you and have a great one, and we look forward to seeing you on future webinars by Big Gardener. Thank you.